Okay, we're live. Thanks for coming. I am the real underscore G Warner on Twitter. It's probably where you got this link from, but in case you didn't know, putting all the YouTubes I can do up right now twice a week. Unfortunately, since Twitter killed Periscope, if there's something better that you want to suggest me to use, please let me know, because I know YouTube still doesn't autoplay on Twitter, and that's kind of brutal. Going to go through the few soccer matches that are during this midweek, Champions League, Europa League, and then also the single Bundesliga match based on the COVID pause at Hertha Berlin. They're trying to make up matches for. And I'm going to, I guess, go in depth on those and see how long I can make this go, because it seems like all the midweek matches are dying as the season's wrapping up. Disappointing, but it's been a fun ride, if not a profitable one yet, but we're working on that. And hopefully we'll end the year with a bang or some sort of thing like that. So starting in Champions League, since that's where most of the money is made, Man City is currently a 3/4 goal favorite with all the juice on their side. All lines courtesy of Bet Online. I make my own lines, then I compare them live without seeing them beforehand on this video stream. So Man City with a 2-1 victory the first match. 2 road goals are huge. That means PSG is going to have to score at least twice to I guess even force extra time. 2-0 will send them through. 2-1 and we'll go extra time, which I think is probably the best case scenario for PSG at this point. Though we'll see what ends up happening. In the first match that was played, I did bet PSG, felt really good about it. Took a 1-0 lead. Second goal was scored by Man City. That was a fluke, it seemed. Though, to be completely fair to Kevin De Bruyne, he puts balls into dangerous areas, and when they don't get headed in, sometimes they go in. That I think makes sense. It wasn't, I don't think, what he was trying to do, but ultimately it worked. Goal number 2 was a ridiculous foul, and then a complete shambolic wall that ended up drifting apart. And Man City took advantage of them, credit them for that. But PSG is going to be really disappointed about the 2 goals that they let up. And a road goal early would have been put them in a really good position. Excuse me. They did not give up. So the first goal was scored by the home team, PSG. Okay, we're back with it. Would have been really nice if they had gotten out of there even 1-1. The road goal allowed wouldn't have been great, but it would have set them up where a victory would have been enough on the road. And now they have to go do a bunch on the road, and that's a big ask. So Man City played this weekend. They basically rotated their entire lineup, at least the important attacking positions. I don't think Kevin De Bruyne even played. They played a bunch of forwards. Gabriel Jesus, also Kun Aguero, who I don't think are going to play much of a factor in this match, as I think that was clearly a rotated side with eyes on this match day on Tuesday, the 4th of May. So Pep clearly has fixed the defense. It's been really good this year, and that's, I think, where Man City has really separated themselves from everybody else. They have been always able to score, but have never been able to defend until this season. They should be pretty well rested. PSG, on the other hand, is still fighting for Ligue 1, as I believe they're in second place right now, with only a couple, or I think 3 match days remaining, whereas Man City could afford to rest a lot of their big guns because they played A, Crystal Palace, who's not good, and B, because they're so far ahead in Premier League. They were not crowned champions this weekend due to a pitch invasion or whatever, breaking and entering. Some guy with an ass crack showing, pardon my French, who destroyed one camera. Thank you, NBC Sports Network, for putting Arsenal off to the side for an hour of coverage that was completely ridiculous, and just the pundits going nuts about how embarrassed they were for English football. We'll leave that to the side until we get to Europa League. But unfortunately, I really like PSG as a counterattacking defensive, kind of sitting back on defense side that uses their blazing speed and incredible athletes, especially at the top of the pitch, to go score goals when you're basically pushed too far forward. I don't know that they're going to be able to do that here against Man City. And I think having possession and controlling the ball the whole match is not going to put them in a great position to do those counterattacks. They certainly have enough talent to go forward and score goals and do all that sort of stuff. But I don't really love the setup for them in this match. Whereas a 1-0, if they have won the home leg 1-0, they could have just sat back and done this exact same thing. The counterattacking worked really well. Maybe they had used too much energy because Man City certainly were on top second half, but I still think both of the goals were pretty preventable. Fortunate, lucky. I don't know. Lucky is generally sounds like a really negative term. But now PSG is going to have to go forward and try to score goals. I think on the other side, Man City can sit back and force PSG to cut them up, which their defense has been pretty much impregnable this Premier League season, has been great in Champions League play. It's been great everywhere. And they're going to be in a great position where a 1-0 loss, even at home, they still go through. But then you got to start thinking about the spread here, where Man City is currently 3/4 of a goal favorite. Looks like it might climb to a full goal, though that seems to be a very key number in this sport, and it's really hard to move from 3/4 to a full goal, or slash, if it moved to a full goal, they'd catch so much money on PSG, unless they're trying to balance out a ton of money coming in on Man City, which doesn't seem to like fit the logic of this match because PSG need to win. So seeing them as an underdog with the need to win is a bit of a question. So I've been thinking about trying not to back teams that are going to have to play a different way than they want to. But ultimately seeing PSG currently catching nearly a goal and having to win where a win might not even be enough for them to advance, then that certainly makes me think that while they're not playing the strategy they want to or what they're best at, it's still this point spread, goal spread still fits them and what their modus operandi for the match day. So you got to think about it. So if PSG is up 1-0 and it's late in the match, what is Man City doing? They're probably sitting back and defending and not really trying to mess with covering the spread. So that looks really nice. But if PSG is up a goal, then it really doesn't matter because they're going to cover the spread anyway. I think you then start thinking about other scenarios and start thinking from the end. So if if it's 1-1 and PSG need that second goal to end up forcing extra time, they're going to be sending everything forward, goalkeeper forward, and you might get hit with one of those brutal late empty net type goals, which I'm trying to forget those, but I haven't been to therapy because of COVID. So they're still plenty fresh in my mind. But ultimately that puts PSG in a really, really dangerous position. Now, there are plenty of other scenarios in how this match could play out that won't even get you close to there. PSG could win this game by a ton. Man City could also win this game by a ton, and then you're basically backing PSG to try to get in the back door late, which they do have plenty of finishers, plenty of creators, and all that sort of talent. I think this would have been a really great match to bet PSG, basically in both legs from my perspective. If they're in a position where they could sit back and defend. They're not really able to do that because they have to take initiative and score goals. And I'm pretty nervous about PSG having to defend like a 4-on-3 break or something like that, because Man City has shown that they are incredibly lethal when they have a numbers advantage. When they have really even a numbers disadvantage, what they struggle the most in a lot of these good teams, big teams, maybe it's a fatigue thing because there's so many matches cramped in amongst each other. It seems like scoring against a shell where there's 10 men behind the ball, that's the hardest part to score. In transition, on a counterattack is the easiest way for these big clubs to score. And I do think Man City will have plenty of opportunities to do that. I guess if you're going to bet PSG, because I'm not a favorites player, so all I can really consider here is PSG. If I'm going to back them, I'm going to need for them to score a goal to really make me feel comfortable that they won't lose 2-1, which might push if this climbs to a full goal, which, I mean, getting 2 hours of entertainment with the potential of winning or getting in the back door late or something like that and pushing is certainly valuable to some. But currently at the 3/4 of a goal number, that losing by a goal, you're still losing half a unit. I mean, it's not a full unit, but still losing, trying not to lose because we want to make our balance go up instead of down. I think PSG, if you're going to back them, you need them to score a goal. You need it to end goalless, which seems very unlikely for either of these teams to play that long. or you need Man City to score 1 goal maximum, and they're going to have plenty of opportunities. This might be a shootout. And then what happens if PSG can score a couple goals, or Man City does, or the score ends up getting out of hand, then PSG will eventually be in a position where their road goals matter more. They still need 2 at the bare minimum, so they're going to be pushing forward for those the whole match. And I think ultimately that puts them in a dangerous position defensively. It just depends on how efficient their offense can be. So we'll see about that. Certainly you don't have to make the decision now as you're watching this, and I'm talking to myself, I don't have to make it now. At +1, it would be a lot different of a number, but I'm not sure that it'll get there, because I think plenty of money would come in on PSG, and I don't think the odds makers want that to happen. They want flat action. Despite what everyone says about taking stances, I don't really think they do, especially on big matches like these. Next, on Wednesday, Chelsea host Real Madrid. 1-1 in the first leg. Chelsea controlled the first half, took a 1-0 lead. Could have been 2 or 3 if Timo Werner could score, could finish, could do anything really. He's had a huge problem, and I wonder if Kai Havertz, after a good performance this weekend, will start over him or be in there together. I think over him is a more likely scenario. Mason Mount did pull up with an injury and came out a little bit early. Probably something he could have walked off, and I'm sure anything he can play, if he can play, he's playing in this match. The 1 road goal is a big deal for Chelsea right now. If it's end goalless, they go through. If it goes 1-1, this goes to extra time. But ultimately, Chelsea know that if they win the match, then they'll go through. So that's a really nice position to be in for Chelsea. They're currently a quarter goal favorite with almost all the juice on their side. So it looks like if anything, it would climb to a half of a goal, which seems like a lot to me based on really I was kind of off on this number initially. I figured that Chelsea would have been favored to advance, maybe because the first leg was in Madrid and that gave an advantage to Real Madrid to potentially get up a big number or something like that. Might have been why that wasn't the case, though I feel like that doesn't make sense because there's no fans and the road goals mean so much, especially with no fans. But ultimately, I'm an underdog player, and that's, I think, where I'd be interested in this match. Real Madrid didn't play great this weekend, kind of struggled with Osasuna, but like they always do, got a second goal, backdoor cover like late after I think it was goalless at halftime, and they didn't really show much offensively, but that's been Real Madrid's story all season. Their defense has really been why they've been good and why they're still fighting for La Liga title. I feel like Atleti still being in the lead is incredible based on how poorly they've been playing, but I'll leave that to the side for now. Real Madrid's defense is great, and they're going to make it really hard on Chelsea to score. So here's one of those, I think, where we go through scenarios where Chelsea's defense is also great, and they've had trouble scoring. Best single player individual to score on this pitch is Karim Benzema right now for Real Madrid. I'm pretty certain, feel strongly about that. Maybe next best, honestly, will probably be Casemiro on a header in the box from a corner, because he's scored so many of those goals this season. Certainly Real Madrid with their wings on counterattacks look great. That's what seemingly to me is the easiest time to score in modern day soccer, at least this season. They don't really have a ton of players with big names in those positions, though. They're kind of nameless, and that might be a reflection of the currency issues that the Spanish clubs are having. But if you look at the Chelsea side, they haven't been playing Tammy Abraham at all. Giroud has hardly been playing, maybe due to age or because he's moving on or something like that. Maybe he and Tuchel don't like each other because he's French and Thomas Tuchel didn't enjoy his time in Paris. Whatever. Ultimately, I think Chelsea's way to score is to have one of those cutback passes in the box to a Werner, a Pulisic, or Havertz is really what worked really well this weekend. And I think that's really how they're going to try their best to score. And that what you need there is a counterattacking situation. And I think that's going to be a possibility for Chelsea because they want to sit back and keep this 0-0 they go through. So they want to do everything they can to keep Real Madrid off the scoreboard. What I think that does, though, is it lends to Real Madrid pushing forward and trying to score, which they do in every match in La Liga. Certainly, this is a better side. Chelsea spent so much money on transfers over the summer that this is not exactly Osasuna or one of the other smaller Elches of La Liga. So there's definitely much more threat for Real Madrid pushing forward, and they certainly do have to score a goal at the very least to go through. And that will put their defense potentially in a problem having to handle with that counterattack from Chelsea. Now, they've dealt with that from all the teams they play this season in La Liga pretty much. They're usually pushing forward and have a few at the back and have to really survive those sort of things. They did some resting this weekend. I think Nacho has emerged as their best center back behind Sergio Ramos now that he's been out. I don't think he's anywhere close to returning, but that would be a big change. This line makes me think that he's not likely to play. But ultimately, Chelsea looking to try to either get out of here 0-0 or 1-1. Makes them as a favorite, especially if this climbs to a half a goal, seem a little bit out of balance with kind of the scenario for how this match goes. Now, certainly Real Madrid pushing forward is scary because that's going to leave themselves open to the counterattacks. But Chelsea really took I don't know if they got tired or it was a weather thing or whatever, dominated the first half and really didn't have that same type of emphasis the second half. And I think Real Madrid and Zidane is someone you cannot question because he's won this competition so many times that you have to believe that Real Madrid really know what they're doing. And as one of the most historic clubs in the world, if not though they're unfortunately their wage bill and their players roster doesn't really suggest that. I think it's really hard to resist Real Madrid against a side that probably doesn't have much of a desire to attack unless they fall behind by a goal, but then you're in a really good position with an underdog. And even if Chelsea do score and Real Madrid concede an equalizer, it looked like then you're 1-1, potentially going to extra time and you win half a unit. So I think there's a lot of good reasons to back Real Madrid here. I don't think that they're that much better. And I think it would be a hard thing for me to want to do to back them if they were favored. But ultimately, with a draw winning you half a bet right now and potentially more than that if this keeps climbing, I think I'm interested in Real Madrid and we'll look to see lineups to see what happens there. If Mason Mount's out, that might drop the line a little bit from what looks like it's trending towards a half of a goal, or if Sergio Ramos is somehow shockingly included in the team or starts or something like that, that might change things a little bit. But the Real Madrid, I think their goalkeeper situation is better. Courtois is better. Benzema's the best scorer on the pitch, and ultimately as an underdog, that's hard for me to resist. So that's Champions League, going through those, certainly looking at all dogs, so that's what I do in every match. PSG, I think, is in a situation that makes it a little more complicated than Real Madrid, but that's certainly complicated as well, based on how they want to play and the point spread, goal spread versus the situation that they're in. Now, Arsenal host Villarreal in Europa League on Thursday. Currently, Arsenal giving half of a goal, rotated a lot of their side this weekend, made 9 changes, the most since 1993. So they should be pretty well rested for this match, though they enter with 1 road goal to their name, but trailing 2-1 on aggregate. And that's an issue for them because they need to score here clearly. But they also really need to make sure that Villarreal cannot match them with that road goal, because then they'll need 2 at home. A single goal victory, 1-0 for Arsenal wins, and they go through 2-1. They go to extra time. So Arsenal must win. But I think that's a better position than they were sitting in, as they looked like they were in big trouble. But thanks to what seemed to me a very soft penalty, that kind of gave them a lifeline. They were swimming in the Pacific Ocean, freezing cold, sharks all around, and somehow someone threw them a little life vest, and they got out from that last penalty. Now, Arsenal's currently half of a goal favorite. Villarreal did not look great this weekend, rotated a lot of their players, including Gerard Moreno, who is in the Pichichi race for leading goal scorer in Spain. And maybe if he's on a better team, might win it this year and probably will move to a bigger club sooner rather than later. Maybe 6th round if Villarreal wins this bid to Champions League, but they're not finishing that way in La Liga currently, or won't do it. Villarreal is an offensive side. Unai Emery, the old old Arsenal manager, is the head coach, and he's kind of shown. So Villarreal was wide open and played on the front foot all of last season, even against Barcelona, and got blasted doing it. Didn't care. They were pushing forward. Unai Emery has been a little bit more pragmatic with his side, but the first time they played Barcelona still went all out, didn't go well. They've, I think, been seen or been known as a goal scoring team in La Liga this season. Defense is somewhat questionable. They've made some big mistakes lately, including the Barcelona match recently. And if not for this kind of cheap penalty, they would be in really great shape heading to Arsenal with a 2-0 advantage. But instead, they have to fight here. And I think their first really instinct would be to defend. Now they're getting half of a goal. Arsenal must win. So Arsenal is going to throw everything forward and push forward probably from the start of this match. Arsenal have shown that in English Premier League play, they've had trouble as they sit mid-table, but that's against teams with much bigger wage bills, I believe, even than Europa League side like Villarreal, because, and certainly English Premier League is much more physical defensively, all that sort of stuff. Villarreal is going to have their work cut out for them defensively, but Arsenal has shown this season that they've really struggled to score goals. I don't know that 2 goals this weekend at Newcastle really says too much, but certainly is better than a performance where they got shut out or a clean sheet held against them or something like that. So they're probably coming in here feeling a little bit better than they could. Villarreal, on the other hand, with the late goal, the substitute, a youngster, and kind of escaping with that victory, those 3 points, which they're in a Europa League fight of their own right now in La Liga. That puts them in good position, I think, to enter with a clearer mind and feeling good about the result, about beating Arsenal 2-1 at home, and trying to sit in a situation where a 1-0 victory, unfortunately, a 1-0 victory for Arsenal kicks them out of the competition. Now, Villarreal could push forward and try to score that single goal to match Arsenal's road goal tally and make Arsenal get 2. But I don't think they're going to be taking any extra chances to do this. I think that's certainly something they want, and they certainly have the ability to do that. But I'm not certain, or what I am certain about is it seems to me that Villarreal should be focused on not letting Arsenal score. Once Arsenal get 1, then this game is going to open. It's going to open wide open. Going to be wide open. Easy for me to say. But Villarreal is going to push forward and try to score goals, and that's where the second goal comes in, and then they probably get knocked out of the tournament. But at this current goal spread, only getting half of a goal, it doesn't really matter that second goal goes in. It's really all about preventing that first one or Villarreal scoring themselves. I think that's ultimately what you're betting if you're betting Villarreal, and that's certainly a play against Arsenal based on their inability to be consistent this season, their questions with the manager, maybe not so much with Arteta, but the message that he gives the players, whether they listen, and really how deep that gets into them. Plus, Arsenal is due for a really bad red card somewhere sooner or later. Villarreal is missing Capoue. Good luck pronouncing that one for me, but due to a red card, I believe, late in that match. Trigueros was suspended for a red card tackle against Messi a couple weekends ago, but that shouldn't affect this match, and he should be available to kind of be that centerpiece of the midfield. So that's important for Villarreal. I imagine they'll also start Gerard Moreno after not playing until coming on late when they needed a goal in a goalless match. It looked like it was going to end goalless if Villarreal and Unai Emery didn't do something to try to score. They ended up getting that result. That was important. And I think Arsenal is currently getting most of the juice right now, or has most of the juice on their side. This might climb even higher as Arsenal's been popular and had a good performance, good showing on the weekend. Villarreal didn't have much of one, but I'm not sure how much people are really paying attention to La Liga at this point compared to Premier League. It's the differences in watch totals and who's all doing that sort of stuff is supposedly significant. I don't have those numbers, but I would also think that the gambling community would be a little bit more clued into Villarreal, but Arsenal certainly is a bigger name, and that's where likely the money will go. And that's the side I'd look at as they're the underdog here, which is the first step for what I'm looking at. But also I think they're in a position where they can play defense, and Arsenal has shown that they've had so many leaks or punctures in their body of work this season that this isn't the perfect scenario for them to go through. 2-1, though, unfortunately, would be enough to send you to extra time. And I think Villarreal in that situation would be sitting back and not really pushing forward to try to win the match in regulation, knowing that in extra time, a goal from them would ultimately send them through, or they could go to penalty kicks, and then it's a coin flip for them to go through. That would be a really tough situation, taking a half of a goal. So ultimately, if you are backing Villarreal, you want this to be low scoring, and you probably need them to get on the board either first or somehow to equalize and then hang around. So definitely not an easy slam shut case, whatever here, but Villarreal is going to be a tough side to back in a shootout, because then they're going to be pushing everything forward, trying to score a ton. And I do have a little bit of a concern about them sitting back and defending for 90 minutes against Arsenal, as I'm not sure that that they have enough. I mean, they do have some international players from Spain and et cetera, et cetera. Raul Albiol is a veteran back there. Pau Torres has been a good player and is in the Spanish international team, likely playing in the Euros this summer. They've been doing a bunch of things. We're rotating their goalkeeper. Rui, I believe, was a backup. I'm most familiar with Sergio Asenjo, who played this weekend but didn't play against Arsenal. Was a backup to Rui during Europa League, the first leg. So that makes me think that we got a new goalkeeper, and that's a little bit of a concern, as it seemed to me that Asenjo is the far and away number one. I don't know if Rui came back from an injury or something like that, but that surprises me a little bit, to say the least. Moving on to the next one, Roma getting half of a goal for Manchester United, who surprisingly got the weekend off thanks to their supporters. Really stupid coverage by NBC Sports Network, but what can you really expect in America? As there's literally you can't find any of these leagues on TV. La Liga and Liga are beIN Sports, and that's not even carried by most sports networks across, or most cable packages across this country. It's embarrassing. But regardless, for such a highly watched sport. Anyway, moving on. Roma is a disaster. Had a 2-1 lead in the first leg. Fell behind 1-0, equalized, took a 2-1 lead, looked to be in great position, and then gave up 5 goals before the end. Final whistle went mercifully. Roma's been a disaster in Serie A play. Manchester United should probably play all their backups because they can really kind of coast through, but they've been playing players like Bruno Fernandes all season, even in these matches. I don't know why Ole's been doing that, but they have their sights on the final and should be only focused on that, really, in my estimation. Kind of hard to bet this one based on not knowing the lineups yet, but imagine that Manchester United will rotate everyone that they can. And Roma probably should do the same thing because they're cooked in this competition. They should be fighting for Serie A situation or places, which isn't looking good for them either. So currently Roma getting half of a goal. Not sure that I want to do anything with that. So the last thing is, I've already gone 26 minutes on this one, is which I think is worth it. This is a big competition. A lot of people care about it, want to watch. Last one are the Bundesliga rescheduled match. Hertha hosting Freiburg. Currently Hertha giving half of a goal. I didn't watch today's match yet, so no spoilers, please. But I was surprised by the price that Hertha Berlin was getting. So they had a COVID scare, and then a bunch of players supposedly were testing positive and had to be quarantined for 2 weeks. And I don't know if that was because a lot of players were actually positive, or if that was one positive in the team personnel, and that somehow set off the alarms within the German society, which has been so serious about stomping out COVID for good reason, I believe, but ultimately way stricter than other places, which have been kind of treating it like a common cold, or the flu virus or whatever, getting someone out of the locker room if they test positive. But currently, I was surprised by today's number that Hertha was only getting a quarter of a goal from Mainz, who just came off a big victory against Bayern Munich, been playing so well, really not because of an offense. They've been quarter goal favorites all over the place lately, getting some late goals that maybe were deserved, maybe weren't, based on the pattern of play against Köln and against Freiburg the first time, that against Freiburg also. Late goals that didn't really seem deserved, that looked like they were heading to goalless draws or draws in some form or fashion. They ended up stealing those 3 points at the end and now look like they're almost safe. I was surprised based on that form pattern of play. Compared, Hertha Berlin's been stuck in their hotel room, supposedly in a quarantine in a hotel for a while. So I was surprised by that number. Very interested to see how that match goes. And this match is Thursday afternoon, so we got a little while till it kicks off. But ultimately, surprised to see that Hertha was getting as much respect as they were, as I thought the line might climb way higher than the quarter of a goal that it ended up closing at. Now I see Hertha currently giving half of a goal to Freiburg, which is also kind of surprising to me because Freiburg, I think, won pretty handily the first time they played, but also sold their goalkeeper to Hertha Berlin, who's ended up losing the starting position there because he was so bad for most of the year. Maybe not his fault completely, but defense was bad for sure. There have been some returnees ever since the COVID pause happened at Hertha, including Boyata, who's an really important defender, was on the bench today. And if he starts, it's a big win for their defense and preventing goals, which they've been struggling all season. Certainly they brought in a new manager who wasn't all gung-ho about offense and was really instilling a defensive mindset into Hertha, which I think was starting to make them play better. But they're fully in the relegation battle, as all these other clubs around them have been winning matches or at least picking up points here and there. They're under a ton of pressure to try to move forward. And Freiburg had this match postponed from a couple weekends ago, have played one less match than essentially everybody else, and should be very well rested, not having played for a week because the cup ended up taking over the last weekend. And Freiburg should be way fresher than Hertha, who entered this match with a major rest disadvantage, having played on Monday afternoon or Monday evening in Germany, and have to play Thursday evening, where Freiburg really hasn't played, I think, for a week and a half, or like the Saturday before. So major rest advantage for Freiburg. They've been playing better. I think the youth on their team is really showing a ton of growth this season, especially also the transfers that they made have really started to look like great players that'll be really important for them. Roland Salai up front, the Hungarian, has been playing really, really well. And Hertha's in a position where they have to win. They've got all the relegation pressure, while Freiburg, I think, was initially fighting for Europa League. Doesn't really look like that's going to be a possibility for them, but they're plenty safe, are really just out there trying to win matches. And what they want to do is possess the ball, and they need to possess the ball a lot to get a bunch of shots because they don't convert many shots. Hertha is going to be in a position where they're likely going to try to do the same thing. And so it might be a battle of possession and see whoever has more of it. But Hertha will be fighting for 3 points, whereas Freiburg, I think, is in a position where they're always going for 3 points, but ultimately can settle for a draw, and that puts them in a position to attack and counterattack Hertha when Hertha is not in the best position to defend those things, as they need to push forward to get points to get themselves out of the relegation playoff position. So we'll see where they sit, and certainly going to watch the Mainz match to see exactly what happened to them, because that's going to really affect their strategy, their psychology, et cetera, going into this. But for the most part, the COVID pause seemed like it didn't really take out too many important players. Goalkeeper it did, and backup goalkeeper, who was formerly of Freiburg, is slid in, which was initially the starting lineup for the first few months of the season. So I don't know if that's a big impact. But currently seeing Hertha giving half of a goal and having to win seems like asking a lot, with way more miles on the legs, that might even see a bunch of rotation heading into the starting lineup of this match. And that we've kind of seen that Hertha, when they were missing Cordoba, who they brought in over the summer at striker from Cologne, it's been a real trouble for them without him. And I think some of their players, Luca Bacchio, I didn't see on the roster today. And if there are a bunch of guys missing from their attack, that'll weaken them even more significantly and make it even harder to cover that half of a goal. So that's going through Champions League, Europa League, and the Bundesliga. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Got any follow-ups or things you want me to cover for this weekend? Hit me on Twitter, @thereal_G Warner, or come in the comments here. But lately it seems like it's just spam or bots posting like 3-letter words that don't make any sense to me. Anyway, thanks for coming. See you guys soon.